There is a disease running rampant across YouTube. It's simply called brain rot.
Today we've got to escape the backrooms. Adam, how do we end up inside the backroom?
And as you're watching this video, brain-rotted slop is overtaking the internet horror niche. SCPs, the backrooms, analog horror, creepypastas. It's everywhere. You've seen a billion videos talking about what this video's going over, but none so far from a real internet horror YouTuber. Because that's all I do. I've done it for years. I have several channels talking about internet horror, so I feel like I have the upper hand in discussing the brain-rotted parts of it. And a question I have, and I'm sure those of you that have clicked on this video also have, is can internet horror survive brain rot and somehow transcend just being boxed in this brain rot slop content area? Yes, that intro was dramatic. No, I don't care. In this video, I will be examining a multitude of internet horror niches, and I'll be showing you different various ways that they're currently being taken advantage of by content farms, slop artists, and other things like that.
A person enters the back rooms.
Oh, new entities!
If you happen to wake up before 5 a.m., do not open your eyes,
or the tickle monster will get ya! While also providing my opinion and helping in ways that I know how as an internet horror YouTuber myself. Because I have some ideas, some thoughts, some unique angles that I'm gonna approach this from. Not that you care or anything, but I kinda do. This video will have a focus on why the slop content is happening, and also what separates slop horror from classic horror that hasn't been taken advantage of. Like Slenderman and Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, and Salad Fingers, things like that. So follow me on this journey as I dive into all that and wade through the swampy waters of the internet horror niche. Hopefully you enjoy this video. It's gonna be chill, laid back, relaxed. If this flops, I don't care, just proves I'm right. Whatever happens, let's go ahead and get into the video, shall we? The history of brain-rotted horror. In order to take a full glance at the issues we're facing in this niche, we need to take a retrospective look and check out the history of this niche as it relates to brain rot. When did it start? What started it? And how do we let it get this bad? And you guys down in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but I really believe the actual, I'm gonna say it again, but brain rot slop began with the Siren Head entity and other Trevor Henderson style works. I was doing some digging on YouTube, and literally the earliest kind of slop content that I could find about the internet horror niche was these kind of videos that you're seeing right here from about 4.5 to 5 years ago. Some of these are raking in over 30 million to 50 million views, and it is just utter nonsense. Siren Head finds cursed Thomas the Train in Cameo's body. What am I watching? What am I seeing right now? What is this? In the last 4 years, this has become widespread with other intellectual properties as well. 5 years ago, never go to Siren Head, Siren Head. Siren Head meets Train Eater of Main Body. And if you wanted to be even more critical, or even more cynical, I guess you could say, you could speak about the brain-rot-ification of Five Nights at Freddy's that took place about a decade ago on YouTube. Now, I'm not one to hate on the OG YouTubers, you know, Vanoss and Smosh and Markiplier, they all have their place, but it really was about 10 years ago when it all began, when all the FNAF stuff started coming out, that internet horror niche began to explode, and kind of just the brain rot started to hide, and it's still going strong to this day. Now, this is what I would call light brain rot. This isn't necessarily straight up brain rot, it's just using the intellectual property for, you know, clicks and whatever. Which is fine, you know, that's what YouTubers do. Every YouTuber does that. But as I'm trying to search for the original, you know, creepy thing on the internet that got brain rotted, it might have to be FNAF. Now, I made a 20-minute video explaining the kind of controversial history of the Siren Head entity, and that kind of encapsulates these thoughts as well. If you've seen that, this is going to be pretty similar. If you haven't seen it, you're going to hear some now. To start, I just want to name a few different internet horror IPs and designs and lore systems that have been slopified, that have been brain-rotted, and I'm going to go ahead and go over these right now. You might not know about some of them, but you probably will. Siren Head.
Some chips. Give me some chips.
The Mandela Catalog, the Walton Files, FNAF in general, the Backrooms and its levels and its entities and lore, the SCP Foundation and its lore and entities, the Train Eater, the Cartoon Cat, literally any internet horror creature design and lore system, like the ones I've just mentioned, have been brain rotted by content farms. These horror IPs, these entire intellectual properties, they have been established, and they were established long before brain rot was a thing. But for some reason, when the content farms see these specific horror niches, they start to salivate, they start to drool. And I'm here to ask the question, why? What makes the things that I listed, as well as so many other things, useful and good for content farms and slop? Why these specific things? What I just talked about, those are objectively horrifying, disturbing things, right? Murder and death and body horror and ritualistic sacrifices and cannibalism and so many disturbing themes. And these entire storylines revolve around horror and gut-wrenching disgust. So why do people market this stuff for children? Why does the slop come from what I just talked about? I decided to really look into what makes internet horror and analog horror so profitable, right? I looked through all these videos, I watched all these series, and I would also go to YouTube and search brain-rotted versions of those by just typing in whatever it was and then Roblox or whatever it was and then fights blank. Trust me, don't do that. You'll want to die. But after thorough investigation and after my brain leaking out of my ears, I found about 5 short, concise reasons why the slop has specifically chosen the internet and analog horror, or just internet horror in general, niches. Number 1, internet horror is easy to create and produce. Number 2, internet horror is safe horror, therefore it works with younger audiences. Number 3, collaborative horror, like the SCP Foundation and the Backrooms. Collaborative horror like this naturally leads to watered down lore and content, which also breeds brain rot and slop in the same note. Number 4, the way that YouTube works and promotes its content out actively harms good content, which leads to clickbait, content farm, slop. Take a shot each time I say slop, I dare you. And number 5, kids will always be the largest demographic on YouTube, and content farms know this and actively abuse this. So now that you've heard my 5-fold reasonings and examples that I could come up with for why the slop has taken over this niche, I want to get into each of those points, diagram, and just really dive deep into what I think they mean. Again, coming from somebody who makes internet horror videos for a living. This is my job, done it for 4 years. I think I know a thing or two. Point number 1 was that internet horror is easy to produce and make, which is true, and this can be pretty much seen in every single theme that I'm about to talk about. To create something on the internet in this niche takes nothing more than a computer, and editing software, and a little bit of determination, right? It's not that difficult. It's not like you're doing full CGI art or directing movies. You can pretty much make anything, especially when there's no actual video evidence for the lore.
There is somehow the way to keep you safe from this goddamn creatures. Step 1. Do not try to fight them. They are extremely powerful things. So unless if you want to be fucked up.
So things like the Backrooms, the SCP Foundation, other draw-on lore systems like the Trevor Henderson system, the Leon Invincible system, and other, horror artists as well. And because of this low barrier to the content, it's easy to get into the niche, which of course brings in more people to make their own ideas. This inherently is not a bad thing, it just waters it down slightly, which I'll get into in point 3. But a point that one of my friends named Raymundo, you've probably heard of his channel, he brought this up in a video similar to this one. He says that most internet horror things that are coming out in the modern day are just remixes of a few mainstays in the niche. So things like Marble Hornets, the Mandela Catalog, those kind of Mount Rushmore of the internet horror genre kind of lead the way. They kind of form everybody else's opinion and they kind of shape their content styles. This is pretty much obvious when you look at a lot of modern day series coming out. Again, it's not a bad thing that it's easy, and it's not a bad thing that people are coming into the niche. This is just a reason why the slop is coming. You're bound to have more slop when there's more people. You can look at things like Marble Hornets and Ben Drowned and things like that and the Smile Dog and whatever you want to. There's so many of these classic mainstays. This happens in other tropes and other niches as well. It's not just an internet horror thing. And pretty much every single piece of literature and also media that comes out is just a copy or an inspiration piece from another one. Like Narnia is literally just the Bible. but condensed and simplified. Half the movies that come out in these modern times are just remakes or reduxes of old movies as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that remixes are bad, it just opens up the opportunity for the waters to become more murky and the line between good and bad content to grow blurrier. Point number 2 is that internet horror is safe horror, and that is why kids enjoy it, which leads to content farms abusing the fact that kids enjoy it. So children in general, from like a biological standpoint, enjoy things that are scary, right? They're kind of crazy. They just do things like jumping off random things. I know I used to jump off monkey bars and jump off the top of the play sets, and low-key very dangerous things. I'm sure all of you at one point were on a swing set and swung back and forth and did front flips and stuff. They like being scared. And essentially they enjoy to push beyond what they know to be safe. They love that, even to their own detriment. Which means that if they can enjoy and experience something scary, but also not physically be harmed from it, if they can experience that from the safety of their home, then they're really gonna enjoy it, because it's all the risk of the scare with none of the bad part of getting hurt. That is exactly what internet horror is. It is horror from a distance. The scary face that jumps up on the screen in an analog horror video might give you a jump scare, but it's not gonna jump through the screen and kill you, right? Pretty much, it's all of the good with none of the bad, and that's point 2. And because of this, some people that make internet and analog horror have kind of just made this slop fest because it appeals to kids, which again, like I said in point 1, are the biggest audiences on YouTube, the largest demographic. And once again, I want to reiterate, kids watching internet horror is okay. It's not the problem. It's kind of just a side part, a byproduct of the actual issue, which is greed by these content farms and slop creators. Kids can't help that they enjoy like the brain rotted part. We all used to as well. I remember watching, YouTube poops back in the day. What does the fox say? Things like that. That was the brain rot of our time. It's now just leaked into the horror part of the internet. Point number 3 is that collaborative horror projects naturally lead to watered down lore and more brain rot and slop. And this point is pretty easily summarized, and if you're in the SCP fandom or the Backrooms fandom, then you have a first-hand view of this. The SCP Foundation and the Backrooms are 2 massive fan bases that have spanned out for 5+ years. Specifically, the SCP Foundation's been here for like a decade. The draw to both of these fandoms is that it's a collaborative project. Anybody that wants to join in and add to the lore can do so. And it's brought a lot of creative-minded horror designers and artists and writers in, and that's a great thing. It allows them to express themselves and allows them to create their own cool things and add to the lore, but naturally the idea of that and the product of that is watered down slop. It's a good thing to have multiple contributors to a certain niche. It keeps it going, it keeps it fresh, and that's the only reason the SCP Foundation and the Backrooms have existed for this long. But like I said in point 1, when you have more people adding to something, it naturally will become more brain rotted and it'll naturally have a higher slop content. The real bad parts of these collaborative horror projects is how content farms have abused them because it's essentially an infinite content glitch. I've made several videos talking about the kidification and the strange kid content through the Backrooms, and I'm working on one for kid content for the SCP Foundation, but it's this disturbing rise in this just strange content that is appealing to children, but is not appropriate for children. Gore and sometimes cannibalism and weird uses of children's IPs in these horror systems are being abused by the content farms. Again, I've exposed a lot of people over my years on doing this by making videos about them, but that's where the bad part comes in. That's where the collaborative horror really shows its underbelly. Like the amount of horrible slop videos about the Backrooms just using random things like Thomas the Tank Engine or Poppy Playtime in the thumbnail is insane. It's appealing to children, these children's horror games, and it's also providing them with very just strange and brain-rotted slop content. Again, this is not new information. You do that already. I'm just preaching to the choir, I know, but I've experienced this as an internet horror YouTuber myself. Since there's very wide guidelines and rules for these lore systems, we have to kind of accept that because of that, there's going to be watered down content. On the flip side of it, the best parts of the community are because of it being a community. The random people adding to the lore and making their own designs, that adds to the best parts of the Backrooms, of the SCP Foundation in general. Both of them have so far survived brain rot, and those are just, 2 parts of internet horror. Now, number 4 is where me being a, internet horror YouTuber really comes into play. And number 4 is the way that YouTube works actively harms good content and thus makes and promotes actively more brain rot content. This is the one I haven't seen many people talk about, and it's because many people that make videos like this don't create content like I do for a living, right? They're YouTubers, yes, but they don't make videos about the niche they're talking about, usually. But what number 4 means is that YouTube kind of pushes things backwards in a way. Instead of YouTube pushing out one amazing, high quality, well done video to millions and millions of people, it would rather algorithmically push out 40 or 50 reactions to that one great video. And those reactors have their own fans, and so on and so forth. It's like a funnel. You've all seen recently in the internet horror niche, several videos have been reacted to that have gotten even more views than the actual kind of product itself. It's very common in the analog horror stuff and things of that nature. If someone made an insanely good video and it gets 500,000 views, that video was a success, right? I mean, the 500,000 is a ton of people. But on the flip side, someone could react to that video and get 1 million or 1.5 million or 2 million views on it, and those viewers would get kind of the watered down reaction or like the lesser version or whatever of the original content. And it's not the reactor's fault, it's not the original YouTuber's fault, it's not the fans' fault. It's just the way that YouTube pushes out content. This naturally pushes more people towards brain rot videos or more slopped videos than the actual content itself. It's just the mystery of the algorithm, it's how it works, and it sucks. Like, let's look at Greylock, for example. This is an amazing analog horror series, it's blown up, but as you can see, the highest viewed video here has 550k views after all these. So it averages, 300, 200k to 500k. The videos are phenomenal, they're well done, storyline's great. Then you go over to the just Greylock search, and you get reactions from people, and you get explanations and stuff. 800k, 750k, 2.3 million, 350k, 1.7 million, 694k. Again, no shade to these people. I watch all these guys. I literally love Wendigoon, and I watch Ryan. So it just shows how YouTube pushes content. All those reactions and explanations have more views than the actual stuff does. It's how the site works. Now, instead of absorbing the original content, these people will absorb the reactors' views and the reactors' positions on that content, for better and for worse. Again, like every point in this video that I'm making, reactions are not an outright blanket horrible thing. Yes, most of the time they're pretty bad, they take advantage of YouTubers and stuff, but at the same time, it's how YouTube works, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. Another way YouTube works is using clickbait, and clickbait has worked since its very foundation, since the nexus of content. Clickbait has been what's worked. And since clickbait works, since you can get way more views from using, bright thumbnails and giant faces and stuff, everybody uses that. And if you have a horror series here on YouTube that is known for something, like, for instance, the Mandela catalog with the famous face, that face is going to be plastered over hundreds and hundreds of other videos that react to it, describe it, and everything like that, dumbing down the content, bringing in more brain rot. And finally, number 5, this might not be a surprise to you, but kids are the #1 demographic, the largest demographic on YouTube, and that is what the content farms that make the brain rot love. And when I say content farms, you know who I'm talking about. There's not just one content farm, there are so many. Usually these people revolve around making videos that involve these internet horror things, as it relates to this video, and it's just bright, poppy, random, bombastic sound effects with these stupid themes and just weird acting.
Some chips.
Today we've got to escape the back rooms. Adam, how do we end up inside the back rooms?
A back rooms entity!
Guys, this is gonna be crazy. We're gonna run into a lot of entities.
Here we go, 3, 2, 1.
Uh-oh.
New entity!
You've all seen it, y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not here to show you because I can't watch anymore, my eyes are bleeding. But using a combination of, clicky titles, keywords, bright thumbnails, and other clickbait, drawing in these horror faces and these horror topics and niches, kids in droves and in thousands come in to watch those videos about them. And then that's how they learn about them, from those kid content farms. And then in turn, the kids might make their own versions or absorb that content, that horror niche, through that content farm, and that just dumbs it down more. It's like a funnel that keeps funneling itself downwards until you get to a just minuscule drop. Things like Siren Head and other famous internet monsters are always used in like GTA and Gmod and stuff like that. And I've literally seen like thumbnails like Siren Head ate my mom, Siren Head ate cartoon guy. Like, what are we doing? What content? Who is this for? That is the definition of brain rotted slop as it relates to internet horror. I like to think of YouTube almost as if it's live TV as well. And as such, that means there's going to be levels to content. You know, TV has levels to it. Some people on YouTube produce such high quality documentaries that they belong on Netflix or TV or something. It's crazy how they're doing this stuff. It's almost like a BBC documentary. I've seen tons of them here on YouTube. Other YouTubers produce just normal videos with editing and sound effects and stuff, and this is where the broad majority of YouTubers fall in. Most of the decent YouTubers are in this category, where the production value is not insane, but it's also fun enough to watch. It's entertaining, you get enjoyment out of it, and this is like your average TV show. This is just what you want to watch. Think of these kind of videos on the same levels as like Friends or The Office or Modern Family or something like that. The shows are great, entertaining, not the highest quality, there's no CGI, but it's still fun to watch. And then you have the lowest tier YouTubers, like the brainrot content farms, who produce just slop. And these are the trash TV people of YouTube. Trash TV, if you didn't know, is shows like Jersey Shores and Love Island and things like that. That kind of content has an audience. Yes, they get views, but it's objectively lesser quality, less entertaining, and it's just kind of just the lowest rung on the totem pole. To me, at least, that is how the YouTube creator space has grown and become nuanced over the years. You can split it pretty much into those three categories. It just so happens that the majority of people that watch YouTube watch the lower two categories. The brainrot content farm slop is the trash TV of YouTube, pretty much. Now, for a healthy ecosystem of creators to exist, all three types of content have to exist, right? You just naturally have to have it. If there was all videos that were amazing, then you wouldn't tell what videos are good, right? You have to have the bad videos to see the good. And that same thing can be said here about the internet horror niche, what this video is about. There are always going to be the great horror videos, the amazing series, the amazing lore systems that you can always look to have that upper quality. Then there's going to be the mid amazing things as well that are still great, still fun to watch. You know, you get entertainment from them and they're just classic. And then there's going to be the lesser, lower tier trash TV horror series that are always going to be there as well.
If a gay person enters the back...
And a combination of all that makes the burger, or proverbial burger, I guess, of internet horror. So, can internet horror survive brain rot? Of course it can, it has thus far, and it'll continue to do so. Although each year it gets more diluted by the day.
Some random goofy entity has appeared nearby for some reason. You can distinguish them by looking at their difference. Really goofy shit.
I don't think we can let the brain rot and then slop or whatever distract us from how good the horror scene is right now. It's growing even better, and I think it's moving in a good direction. Things like Kane Pixels and the Walton Files and other analog horror series, maybe like the Jurassic Park series, Greylock, things like that, everything is kind of coming into its own, making its new little wave through, and the good content is still rising above the bad and mid-tier content. I think it's up to us as fans and viewers to not let that horrible trash TV content influence us and give us like a doomer mindset, because there is still good content out there and there will still be good content forever. It just sucks that, like the 5 points I listed, YouTube pushes out slop more. The kids that watch YouTube are the greatest demographics, so whatever they watch is going to get more views. Internet horror is easy, it's understandable, and it's easy to produce, and it's safe to consume for pretty much everybody. So internet horror will move on, it will survive the brain rot slop epidemic, which will probably continue to grow. It's just up to us to continue to produce videos that get out beyond that and get out to the main stage and show people that we're not cooked. Horror will always be scary, and thus there will always be content farms that abuse that and take advantage of it. The same thing happens with like every single other thing ever, really. You know, if an amazing new movie comes out, movie critics are gonna go see that movie and then write their bombastic review on their website of it. If a new food item comes out at Taco Bell, every single big bag mukbanger is gonna go on TikTok and they're gonna make their review about it in their car, right? It's the content comes out, then lesser versions of it get talked about, and then lesser versions of that get talked about, and so on and so forth. It happens everywhere, always has. It's just up to us to stay the course, keep going, keep looking at what you like, and don't let the bad content influence you, even if it's hard to ignore, because I have seen too many train eater eats bloop entity yada yada yada. My mom is Thomas the Tank Engine. As that one saying goes, without evil there is no good, and all that. Yes, this is a meta video. No, I don't care. I just like the entire point of view that I have as an internet horror creator myself. I think it kind of gives me an edge, so hopefully you enjoyed it too. That's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you did enjoy this content, if you liked anything that I said, leave a like, I'd really appreciate it. I never really do videos like this, so I hope you did enjoy this kind of analysis of the internet horror niche. I'm trying to make non-brainrot videos about internet horror. That's my entire shtick here, and I think I've been doing pretty good at that. I think. And I also have another channel called Spoogly, where I do kind of the same thing, just better quality, you could say. I just ate my microphone. Thank you all so much. Love and appreciate each and every one of you. With all that said, I will see you in the next video. Make sure you tell somebody you love them. Life's too short not to. Bye-bye.